let's talk about something we've got up on TexasFootball.com. And this was the brainchild of William Wilkerson, who is our web guy. He's our if you like what's on the website, he's the one who makes it look really, really good. And he came up with the idea of an anonymous survey of 2021 Texas high school football recruits. And we've done this with other categories before. If you remember about a couple of years ago, we did, and we've done it in the past, we've done it with high school coaches. We'll have anonymous surveys where we say, hey, here are some questions we're really interested in. Can you help us out? Let us know what you think. And normally, as a reporter, a capital J journalist, I am hesitant to allow anonymity, but I also think there is a value, especially when you're doing it on a broad scale and you're doing it not to get specific information about one particular topic, but if you want to get a broad consensus about how a group feels,
yes,
I'm okay with anonymity, especially when you want to ask questions that they may be concerned could get them some blowback.
Yes.
So, like, for example, when we ask high school football coaches, I believe I asked them something along the lines of, like, what is the number one factor in a job that you might take? Like, if you're looking for another job, what is one? And some, coaches, I think we all understand that coaches are being sincere whenever they say, oh, it matters like the type of kid that you've got, and it matters this. But for a lot of coaches, also money is a matter of fact.
Yeah,
they
have family. I mean,
yeah,
you got to support the
that.
family.
Furthermore, we've also asked them in the past, I also asked high school football coaches in the past, things like, what is the worst part of your job? Which coaches, I found, are particularly positive guys.
Yep.
They don't want to air their dirty laundry, but if you give them the way to, but I think it's valuable for us as consumers and us as fans to understand what coaches are going through. And so if you give them that veil of anonymity, you can allow them to be more honest, and they can say, yeah, you know what? Sometimes dealing with parents stinks.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or sometimes it's really hard this and that. Like, and that's I think ultimately a positive. So I think there has to be a reason to grant a team somebody anonymity, but I think with things like this anonymous recruiting survey, I think that checks out.
I think, too, when you're looking at this specific survey, these are kids. I mean, most of them are considered adults now at the age of 18, but they're still living under their family's roof. They still, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, coaches. It's like they also don't want to be disrespectful in an elder sense of way, by saying something that, yeah, well, this team is completely overrated, like that type of thing.
So we're rolling these out kind of one by one. We asked these 32 top 2021 Texas high school football prospects a number of questions. We're rolling them out kind of one by one. Yesterday we unveiled which in-state school is the most overrated and why. That's a juicy question. Which in-state school is the most overrated and why? There was a relative consensus. Not a relative consensus. There was a consensus. The majority of the responses, 21 of the 32 respondents, said Texas was the most overrated. And we've printed their exact comments. Some of them have said they never, here's one, Texas, and they never produce, and they constantly get multiple top recruits. Okay. It wasn't unanimous. There are other ones. Baylor got a vote. A&M got a vote, et cetera. Things, they are just overrated. Things like that. I think that's particularly interesting. But right now, Texas high school football recruits, if you ask them, at least this group, said that Texas is the most overrated. We also asked another question. What was the main reason you signed with your college? We gave them a variety of different options, right? We wanted to narrow it down so it wasn't just – but what was the main reason that you signed with your college? The majority, 43%, 14 of them, said they chose the coaching staff. 8 of them said they chose the history of the program. 6 said they chose academics, and 4 chose other. including the city the college is in, some other things.
No one put
Location.
nightlife out
Nobody
where the
said
college is.
Nobody said nightlife.
You lying a little bit, recruits, we know.
That's fine. And another one, which coach on the staff had the most influence on your commitment? I think that we think of it, and I think because it's easy for us, we're about to talk with Sonny Dykes, the head coach at SMU. I think it's easy to say, oh, Preston Stone signed with Sonny Dykes and SMU, right? I think that's shorthand for what we tend to think of. But I think it's important to remember that you're signing with a whole staff, and they talk with the head coaches, but there are also, I think that the majority of the, I don't want to say dirty work, but a lot of the nitty gritty of the recruiting process falls to the staff. And so, which coach on the staff had the most influence on your commitment? 20 said their position coach.
Yeah, that's huge.
So if you're a quarterback, you're choosing for your quarterback coach. If you're a linebacker, you're choosing for the linebacker coach. 10 said they chose the head coach. 1 chose the assistant position coach, and 1 said all of the above. So the majority said they chose for their position coach. And another question we had, if the head coach of your school left for another job, would you want to transfer? We gave them 3 options. Okay, so if the head coach of your school that you signed with left for another job, would you want to transfer? We gave them 3 options. Option 1 was yes, immediately. Option 2 was I'd want to wait to see who the next coach is. And option 3 is no, I'm writing it out. Okay? Those were the 3 options. Surprisingly, none of them said yes immediately. I thought that was interesting. I think sometimes we think of recruits as being locked in on a particular coach, and if that coach isn't there, why in the heck am I here? But I think what you saw is 18 of the 32, so 56%, said they would want to see who the next coach is. They want to give him a chance. So I think that if you're dialing this in, let's use who changed coach? Texans. If you're using Texas as an example, right? Texas signees wanted to see who wanted to see who got hired, Steve Sarkisian, and maybe meet Steve Sarkisian before deciding if they wanted to transfer. Although with the letter of intent, I don't believe you can transfer immediately. That's the example, is that next year, if there's a signing, somebody like that, they would want to see who the next guy is. But I also thought it was interesting that 14 said that they would write it out. So, 43% said, nah, you know what? I'm committing to the school. I'm not committing to the head coach. I am going to make sure that we ride this thing out. I'm here for the program. I thought that was a little bit interesting. And I would have thought that, honestly, if you had asked me to guess, I would have guessed, no, I'm writing it out, and yes, immediately would have had about equal, and then the majority. I think it's not surprising that people are like, wait, see.
I think that goes back to, it all ties together with that position coach question being the most respected, and it really, really shows that, like you said, we focus so much on the head coaches, but we've talked about it like when Jeff Traylor was coming in, it was like, but who is he going to fill into those key spots? Like, that's what we're Dave Aranda coming in, it's like, okay, we know he's a great defensive mind, but who takes over the offense here? I think it puts that much more pressure on head coaches to pick the right people.
I think that you're right. And so that, to me, is particularly interesting, that a lot of, I think what we can glean from this is, from these questions writ large, is I think a staff matters. I think that, yes, of course, you want to have, of course, having Nick Saban as the head coach is good for Alabama. But building the staff is also important to what they're able to do and how they're able to recruit. So I think that's an interesting kind of look into what Texas high school football recruits are thinking across the state of Texas. And, something to keep in the back of your mind, and we'll have some more stuff coming out as far as this is our what we call our Unfiltered anonymous recruit survey. And so check that out on TexasFootball.com. We've got a lot of great stuff there. So TexasFootball.com to see our Unfiltered anonymous recruit survey.